Hello guys and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me Vulcan. Today I have for you game 1 out of 2 games between Gonzo and Włochaty in round 4 of the second European tournament. Today we are going to be seeing Pegasus Bridge, and on the Allied side Gonzo has chosen the first SSB, and on the Axis side Włochaty has chosen the third Fallschirmjager. So these are both divisions that the players have been having success with. We've seen Gonzo do very well with the first SSB, and in the last series versus Eugene, Włochaty used the third Fallschirmjager very well to take him on. So I'm very much looking forward to this matchup. Both of these players are very good, and if anyone can defeat Włochaty, it's going to be Gonzo. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how these games go. Now, you may have heard we are moving on to round 4 here. I don't cast all the games from every round in the European tournament because there are so many games to get through. So I normally choose 5 or so matchups that I want to focus on and try and pick the best. So in this case, Gonzo versus Włochaty doesn't get much better. Now first SSB versus third. First SSB should have an advantage early on. They have the 100 points per minute, they also have access to Shermans, and they also have access to Centaurs. Now Gonzo has already placed down a Centaur on the left side here, and that will be very useful for controlling the open ground on the right. If he can get past these orchards, then this will be his ground to lose, since the third Fallschirmjager definitely struggles at holding ground at range, due to the only unit that they can engage at range with, in terms of AP units, is the Pak 41 Gerlich, and that has a limited amount of AP. Otherwise, they're very much reliant on things like HS129s, and that's where things like the Wildcats on the side of the first SSB can really come in handy. And I would definitely expect to see Gonzo make use of those Wildcats in Phase A because they reload so damn quick and can be really useful for pinning down enemy AT that would otherwise threaten his tanks and other units. But let's have a look at some of the units going down here. We can see that Włochaty has already placed quite a lot on the field. On the top side, it's going to be some Fallschirmjagers with a Panzerschreck. Further down, some more Fallschirmjagers. We see Fallschirmjagers again. 2 units of Recon. These could be Fallschirmpanzerabwehr, or more likely like Fallschirmspeertrupp, or also the Fallschirmsharpschütze. Furthermore, we have the Panzer L6 is another unit of Fallschirmjagers here with the Fallschirmführer and some more Recon. And then on the bottom side, it's going to be another Fallschirmjager and Panzerschreck. So looks like Włochaty are very dependent on his infantry once again. And this is a playstyle that we've seen from him many times over, with divisions that would often use more support units than not. But Włochaty loves focusing on his infantry play and his infantry micro. We'll have to see if it works out against Gonzo, who will definitely know how to deal with it a lot better. The Panzer L6 is basically the only unit that is not infantry in that lineup. Over on the side of Gonzo, on the bottom side we are going to see that Centaur I already mentioned, alongside a Morris LRC. Not often you see these used, but Gonzo seems to think that they are useful. They're definitely good for surrendering enemy units because they are extremely fast. And they're also good for cleaning up half tracks because they have that extra AP. But against the third Fallschirmjager, I don't really see a use other than possibly the Bren to pin down infantry. Other than that, I'm not entirely sure where Gonzo is going with the LRC. Just maybe using it as a recon vehicle, but doesn't have as good recon as, say, infantry, which is why often I would prefer not to take the Morris LRC, but we'll see Gonzo take it out this time around. All of these are going to be commando assaults or commando supports, supported by command infantry. We've got some more infantry going into the town with the tank busters, followed by a Morris LRC, and then on the top side we have another tank busters and a couple of infantry squads. So Gonzo focusing more on the armor than Włochaty, but both really have only one significant piece, which is like the Panzer L6 on the side of the Włochaty, and on the side of Gonzo it's Centaur Mark IV. So, can the Morris LRC take on an L6? This may be a reason to bring in the Morris LRC, because at close range, this boy's anti-tank rifle may be able to deal with that L6. Now these were indeed Fallschirmjager. There's also one unit of Fallschirmpanzerabwehr, the Commando Assaults. Wow, one of those got absolutely ruined very early on. Włochaty dodging the grenade there as well is really, really smart. But yeah, the sharpshooter came in and killed off those assaults very, very quickly. They ended up getting surrendered. Now the Commando Assault's engaging the Fallschirmjagers at close range, and that is an engagement that goes in favor of the Commando Assaults. But once again, Włochaty going to be dodging that grenade and getting those Fallschirmjagers out of there. So already some awesome micro here from Włochaty. Fallschirmpanzerabwehr are being forced to fall back, but look at this on the bottom side, the Morris LRC, with its speed, able to exploit this salient on the bottom side. Now going to be coming up behind the L6, and this is where Gonzo may go for a bit of a pincer. Włochaty holding on though to these buildings with his Fallschirmjagers and his Panzer Schreck. Now the Commando Fusilier Marines, they've managed to get into this building, which is very important. It allows the Centaur to control this open ground. And that is exactly what Gonzo was looking to do. Now we're going to be seeing Gonzo get ready to engage the L6. Doesn't quite have line of sight just yet, hoping to pin down the Fallschirmjagers. But we can see that Włochaty has made quite a bit of ground here. The 3 units of Fallschirmjagers that he has, accompanied by that Fallschirmschaftschütze, have killed off the units that Gonzo brought into the town. Which basically means that all is standing in the way of Włochaty taking the town entirely is his Morris LRC, which is being pushed upon quite quickly. But the Commando Tank Busters, you cannot count them out. They do still have 9 HE at close range, and that is something that Gonzo has taken advantage of so far. As the Fallschirmjagers get close, the Tank Busters can open up. They do have the very good stealth, so the Fallschirmjagers can't spot them from a distance without the help of recon. And that is a problem for if they want to engage. Commando Fusilier Marines on the bottom side though have cleaned up the Fallschirmjagers. Fallschirmpanzerschreck has been taken out. We can see that the L6 does kill off the reinforcing infantry. That's pretty important. Also manages to kill off the Morris LRC. Morris LRC coming in behind. Can it get the job done? It actually bounces with the first shot from the AT rifle. Second shot finds the shooter knockout. Włochaty's going to be trying to micro that out of the way, but that's going to be a crew knockout. Bailout. Morris LRC does the job. Nice job by Gonzo. Finds a transmission damage though, which is not very helpful since it allows the tank to move. But the Morris LRC getting the job done. They're going to now be moving away from the infantry in the center here to avoid getting killed. Commando leader has come up. There's going to be some more infantry on the way. But look at this movement on the bottom side from Gonzo. He has taken this bottom side and is absolutely running with it. And there is really not much that Włochaty can do at this point other than rely on his air force. So that's something I would expect to see maybe later on in the game from Włochaty. For the time being though, it looks like Włochaty's really trying to solidify his position in the buildings where he has the advantage currently. But his Fallschirmschaftschütze on the top side, they're going to get taken out by the Commando Tank Busters. And these Tank Busters, they haven't killed any vehicles yet, but they've certainly done well against infantry. So nice job by Gonzo to make that happen. Pak 41 Gerlich unloaded in the face of the Morris LRC. LRC is going to have to get out of there, but with the track wheel damage, it's going to take its sweet time. Pak 41 will have another shot or two. It doesn't decide to change target, ends up missing pretty much all of its shots, and the Morris LRC is free for now. Wildcat coming in with a bombing strike. Mentioned these early on. The use of these is that they can reload very quickly, and they do have just enough HE power to pin down AT guns if they actually hit the mark. This time around, it looks like the bombing strike was a little bit off as the Pak 41 had continued to move. And Gonzo had lost line of sight onto that AT gun. So Wildcat's just going to get out of there, reload quickly, come back with more bombs, and hopefully look for another pin in the future. Commando Tank Busters, they're going to get hit very hard by the full strength squad of the Fallschirmjagers. They can do a lot of damage though, so we may see these Fallschirmjagers lose a few men. But it's not really long until those are dead. Commando Tank Busters get dealt with, but take a 10-man Fallschirmjager squad down to 6 men, which is actually pretty important in the grand scheme of things. when you're using 6 strength squads on the side of Gonzo with his 18 HE, if you have to kill 4 less men, it's quite a big difference. So for example here, the 6 strength commando assault squad going up against these Fallschirmjagers, it makes it so much easier to just kill them off. And there, those 4 men had no chance against the 18 HE at close range. A really nice control on the bottom side. Gonzo doesn't have to get particularly aggressive here, but I would like to see the Centaur possibly moving forwards in order to counteract the spawn here. Because if this Centaur was placed, say, here, it would have line of sight onto both this spawn and this spawn, which would mean that any reinforcements that włochaty wants to bring in onto the bottom side of the map would not be able to be effective. włochaty would have to bring everything on the top side and drive it down into the town. By the way, we do see one of the jeeps going down there. Wildcat's back again with another bombing strike onto the Fallschirmjagers this time. And it looks like Gonzo's just gone on the defense in the town. Quite happy to sit on this +1, I would assume. Commando Fusilier Marines on the bottom side, they're engaging the Fallschirmjagers at the 100 meter range, which is good for the Fusilier Marines. The Fallschirmjagers only have 6 HE at that range, whilst the Fusilier Marines have 11. So a superior firepower there for the Fusilier Marines is very useful, but now the Fallschirmflammenwerfer are going to come in. Look for the pin onto the Fusilier Marines sooner than later. Fallschirmjager is just going to bait that engagement in the meantime, get that machine gun on target, get a lot of sort of morale damage done there, so then when the Flammenwerfer comes in, that's an instant pin and finds the surrender. Now the Fusilier Marines, they might be able to kill off the Flammenwerfer with the Bren, but the Flammenwerfer using its smoke very well there to avoid enemy fire. The Pak 41 has now come all the way up, and there's Morris LRC under fire once again. And this guy has just been in the worst position for so damn long. But the Centaur's had enough. That's going to be moving up, engaging the Pak 41. It does have 3-star veterancy, so I would not expect this to miss. And it's going to do a lot of damage when it hits. So there we see 1 damage done as the Pak 41 falls back. Gonzo's using fire position here to make sure that he continues the fire and does not get caught out by that Pak 41 again. But nice kill in the town here onto the Humber Mark III, gets rid of that. Now we see the Wildcat coming in again with another bombing strike onto the Fallschirmjagers, and this is exactly what you use the Wildcat for. You just bring them in for those quick pinning strikes. You don't really expect their lethality to be that high, although that did kill 4 men from the Fallschirmjager squad. But the reason that Gonzo has done this is so that he can quite simply run down the Fallschirmjagers with his Humber Mark III. We'll have to be careful of this Pak 41 though, that has been pushing forwards into the town. It's already killed off one of his Humber Mark IIIs, so he won't want it to kill another. These Fallschirmjagers, well, they found themselves in a dodgy position. The machine guns at range from the commando supports definitely doing a lot of damage there, and forcing those Fallschirmjagers to fall back towards his lines as opposed to włochaty's. These commando supports though, as they try and get into a better position, do find themselves pinned down by the Fallschirmjagers that are entrenched, but here comes that Pak 41 I was talking about, firing in from the centre. 2-star veterancy gets the job done. Those Humbers do not have that much armour, and that is something that włochaty can take advantage of with those Pak 41s. So still a +1 in favour of Gonzo. I really think it's going to be very hard for włochaty to control this bottom side of the map. He's done well so far though to reinforce the centre and top side in order to gain an advantage there. Best bet though for włochaty, I think, is just to continue pushing through and controlling all of these buildings in order to gain ground, as opposed to trying to contest this bottom side. But here we see the Fallschirmjagers winning out once again against the commando supports. We see that the Pak 41 does manage to get the kill onto the Morris LRC. That was this one up in the town. The Wildcat comes in with the bombing strike onto the Fallschirmjagers, finishes those off. Commando Fusilier Marines, though, they have found the Pak 41 in the backside. And just so much going on at the moment with both players microing this infantry all over the place. Look at these commands, just like every single infantry unit has something to do, and włochaty making the most out of all of them. We did see another unit go down here. Wildcat coming in with a strafing round onto the Fallschirmjagers though to help with the Commando Fusilier Marines, which are stuck engaging with 5 HE versus the 14 HE at range. These Fallschirmjagers win every time at that sort of distance, and 9-man squad of Fusilier Marines getting pinned is not ideal. Now they're going to try and fall back, but that's going to be straight towards the Fallschirmjager, and that's going to be a surrender, as there is no command nearby. Commando assaults though, they've taken out that Pak 41 that was a problem. Now the commando assault's going to be looking for the engagement with the Fallschirmjager. The Fallschirmjager though engaging with the FG42 before the commando assaults get in range with their weapons. Also the Fallschirm sharpshooter getting involved with the Gewehr. On this top side, Pak goes down, Panzerschreck now under threat. Sherman 2 has arrived on the scene. I'm surprised that one of these hasn't come in sooner from Gonzo. But now it's here, supported by Commando Raw Marines since we've moved into Phase B. And this is where Gonzo's going to try and get aggressive on the top side using that Sherman 2 fire support. Centaur though, on this bottom side, can still do a lot of damage. The Pak 40 has come in to counter the Centaur Mark IV, but that has been spotted. So I'm pretty sure Gonzo won't allow that kill to occur. Can of course use fire position to make sure that it does not. Pak 40, it's going for that cheeky kill. The Włochatypająkulec trying to use its grenades to get the Pak 40 closer, because the thing that Włochaty needs to do here, he needs to fire a one-shot kill. That is his best bet in order to take out this Centaur. Gonzo's best bet at this point is not to attack move on the bottom side, but just to fire position into the smoke, because that's the only reason that smoke is there is to sort of accompany the Pak 40. And the Pak 40's use that to get close, so that it is accurate as it can be. But this time around, I don't think it's going to work out. The Centaur is going to possibly be fire positioning. Never mind, it engages the Fallschirmjagers. I'm very surprised Gonzo hasn't set a fire position command there. Maybe concentrating on that top side where he has made quite a bit of ground so far. The Raw Marines, they're trying to make ground. The Fallschirmjagers though are in a very tough spot for this Sherman 2 to deal with. Generally you'd rely on the Sherman 2 to get into a position where it can fire with its crazy HE onto these infantry squads. But not being able to do so since the angle onto the Fallschirmjagers is kind of dodgy. But with that bombing strike coming in from the Wildcat, that should allow the Sherman to get aggressive. Also the Commando Tank Buster's taking out the L6, removes that threat at close range. So nice job by Gonzo to create a constructed push on that top side. What I'd like to see from Włochaty though is more aggression towards the mid here. If he can push into these buildings and maybe get all the way up to here, like I mentioned, this would be a way to find ground without having to contest this bottom side. The Pak 40, that's still alive though, can still threaten the Centaur. But it's really up to Gonzo to bring in some recon so he can keep an eye on the movements of that AT gun. Fallschirmjager, they're trying to hold the line now against the Commando Raw Marines, which have managed to get into a couple of these buildings. Sherman 2 is just trying to cover the main road for the time being. Now going to be able to get shots onto the Fallschirmjager. And the Commando Tank Busters and Raw Marines getting aggressive to find the surrender there. Panzerschreck now next in line. Now unless Włochaty gets some Fallschirmjagers in here quickly, he is going to lose control of this top side to Gonzo entirely. And Gonzo currently has the +2 advantage, so that is not something that he wants to happen. Gonzo is now using that fire position towards the Pak 40. He does know it's there, since he has not killed it yet. But after the play with the smokes, I don't think Gonzo wants to lose the Centaur anytime soon. Black 36 has been brought into the town, try and help out control these Wildcat strikes, but that Wildcat coming in for the bombing strike onto the Fallschirmjager, since that's on 4 health, this probably will be a kill if one of those bombs lands on target. It doesn't have to be, as the Fallschirmjager is not in command radius, just going to be a straight up surrender. So now the Raw Marines controlling this town. The Panzerschreck here is not on return fire, so I expect them to reveal themselves yet as the Raw Marines get close, which will mean that the Sherman 2 should be safe. Commando supports engaging Fallschirmjagers on the top side. Who will win out on this one? Since the Commando supports are in cover, I would expect them to, and that is the case. Fallschirmjager is going to have to fall back. 61%, 62% territory now for Gonzo and counting. But now Włochaty is getting aggressive in the center here. But it's given time for Gonzo to reinforce himself. Now, since we are in phase B as well, he does have access to Sherman 5s. And we can see one of those is on the way. So the Fallschirm sharpshooter, they're going to get taken out. The Fallschirmjäger is under fire when it probably should not be. Fallschirmjäger does need to stay in cover, as it is the only thing providing veterancy here at this moment in time. Fallschirm Pioneers are struggling to make ground due to the 3-inch mortar, and Gonzo's just set up such a good defense in that town area. Now it seems as though the HS-129B1 did come in on the bottom side to kill the Centaur, but the Centaur got bailed out, then transmission damage, so the Centaur is able to move. Bofors does manage to force back the Me-109 G6R6 as well as the HS-129 after that strike. But with the Centaur out of the way, the Fallschirmjägers can get aggressive and try and push on to these Fusilier Marines. But really good job by Gonzo to keep those on return fire, so that if the Fallschirmjägers get close, he can do a lot of damage very quickly indeed. Now the Fallschirmjäger have gone down, which I believe is quite a big mistake that we don't see often from Włochaty, since now the Fallschirmjägers, the Fallschirm Pioneers, they lack the veterancy that they would have otherwise had, and now the veterancy advantage is, you know, sitting in favour of Gonzo quite easily. Oh, nice kill there from the Commando Tank Busters, takes out one of the reinforcing Fallschirmjägers. That is a very big kill. That's like a 45-point infantry squad going down for free. Commando Fusilier Marines, if they open up onto the Fallschirmjägers at this kind of range, you can see the Fallschirmjägers are not in heavy cover, they're only in light cover, whilst the Commando Fusilier Marines are in heavy cover. And those Fallschirmjägers, they go down so damn quickly. They also took out the Fallschirm Flammenwerfer. They have shots onto the Mach 40 as well. This could be a very, very strong play here from Gonzo. Just killing those two units alone is very, very good for Gonzo. Now if he can use the Bren gun to finish off the Pak 40, that would be absolutely perfect, because then he can fix up the Centaur Mark IV and push on to the Pak 40 once again. Me-109 G6R6 coming in with a strafing run just to try and save the day, but that is going to get forced back by the Bofors that Gonzo has invested upon on this bottom side. Now if Włochaty can't really make too much ground in this phase, he is going to struggle moving into the late phases, because the 1st SSB with the 160 points per minute is one of the only divisions that could probably contest the 3rd Fallschirmjägers in the sky. Because the thing is with the 1st SSB is that through phase B and into phase C, they have access to loads of Bofors and loads of AT guns. And that is something that they can really invest upon when they hit phase C, as well as all of the different aircraft that they also have. So that's something that Włochaty is going to have to deal with anyway. And the Me-109s, they lose their effectiveness if they're going to come under fire from that anti-air. Meanwhile in the centre, Włochaty sort of being a bit delayed on his push does mean that there's now a counter push coming in from Gonzo, since it didn't really go to plan. Now these Fallschirmjägers are struggling. The Fallschirm Pioneers, they're going to have to fall back. The Fallschirmjägers are going to have to hold the line. They can do so from that position. They are engaging with all of their HE, so that should be okay for the time being. But as soon as the mortar gets involved, they are going to have to fall back. Wildcat finishes off the Pak 40, which is very important now that the Centaur is back online. These Fusilier Marines, they've had to fall back from their position in the bunker, but with the help of the Centaur, the Fallschirm Pioneers will not be sitting in that position for much longer. And Gonzo, well, he's entrenched up here now as well. And this +2 is not going anywhere. Gonzo currently counting up towards the 1,600 point mark. Only bet really for Włochaty is to kill off the armoured pieces with HS-129s, or even Stugs for that matter, and then press forwards with the elite infantry. But so much of this elite infantry is getting killed off easily by Gonzo. Now we're going to see a Wildcat go up against the Me-109 G6R6. The Wildcat is going to be forced to fall back, but the Bofors is on the field and the C-Fire does come in. And this is where the engagements fall in favour of Gonzo. These Bofors just make all the difference. The C-Fire, not sure if it's going to be in range. It is. So that is going to be a dead Me-109. Assuming that it has enough ammunition to get the job done, which it does not. And that is one thing that Włochaty is relieved about, I'm sure. Those C-fires certainly lack that ammunition. And yeah, Włochaty gets away with that one. Right, Wildcat coming in with another bombing strike. Just how effective these have been is just absolutely insane. Awesome aircraft. Really do make the difference. Sherman 2 has managed to avoid an engagement with the Pak-41 up here. Really sneaky sort of move there from Włochaty to get that Pak-41 into position, because you would not expect in Phase C for there to be a Pak-41 available. So using that Pak-41 at close range to try and kill the Sherman 2, smart move, but I don't think that Gonzo's going to fall for it twice. I am surprised, however, that these Fallschirm Pioneers have actually made ground on this bottom side. But here comes HS-129. Does manage to cleanly kill the Centaur this time around. Bofors could not stop that from happening. So that is exactly what Włochaty wants, and having done so, can invest in a lot of units on this bottom side to try and make some ground. Hellcat, though, has been purchased, and this thing has the 450 kilogram bombs with the 25 HE power. Very strong for taking out enemy infantry squads or enemy support. So these guys could be in for a treat. You can see that bombing strike is going to try and hit the leading unit, which is a Pak-40. Gonzo landing that bombing strike. Does manage to blow up the Opel Blitz, but the Pak-40 and Fallschirmjagers do get out of that alive. The only benefit of that Hellcat really was that it unloaded all of those forces before they reached the town or got close to the town, which means they have to run across the open against the Bren guns of the commandos. Also, it does give more opportunity for the Wildcats to get the job done. We did see a Wildcat actually go down there to an ME-109, so sharp reactions from Włochaty allows him to pick that up. Gonzo, though, still making ground into the town. These commando leaders, they do have the 20 HE power close range grenades, so that may be something that Gonzo tries to use here. And since he's got two commando leaders, even a third commando leader here, these commando leaders can be used for their infantry capabilities as opposed to their command. Because they have 12 HE on their machine guns, on their submachine guns, and also that grenade. So Fallschirmjagers at close range will suffer versus those four-man squads. Pak-41 going for the kill once again. Misses its shot. Sherman 2 takes it out. No threat there for Gonzo. Gonzo still controlling the +2. And I can't help but feel that Gonzo has been rather conservative after the start of the game. He got extremely aggressive on this bottom side, and then afterwards didn't continue to do so, although Włochaty's defences throughout the game have been rather fleeting. One of the commando leaders has gone down though. This commando leader is now trying to engage the Fallschirmjagers. The grenade does go off and the Fallschirmjagers get taken out. ME-109s. No AA on this top side, so they can patrol that area. Wildcat looking for a bombing strike at some point. Will likely choose the bottom side, but the Pak-40 has found a direct shot there onto the Bofors and does a lot of damage with each shot that lands. So that's a clean Bofors kill, and now these ME-109s can strafe the Bofors in order to pin that down. They won't kill it off due to AA's resilience versus aircraft, but that will open up the opportunity for an air-to-air engagement with Gonzo, as well as a HS-129 strike. But here comes 3 ME-109s, HS-129 as well, so Włochaty going for the full house. One of the Wildcats does get forced to fall back. Flak 36 is swinging things in favour of Włochaty. I think this C-Fire is out, the Wildcat's probably out, but this C-Fire is a goner. A nice job there by Włochaty. Pins down the Bofors, opens up the opportunity for the HS-129, which does kill the Centaur on the bottom side. And this is exactly the sort of thing that Włochaty needed to do. But since Gonzo is reaching towards the 2,300 point mark, it is kind of a lost cause for Włochaty at this point. There is 13 minutes left on the clock, and to make back 2,300 points would be an absolute mission. Especially considering Gonzo has elite infantry entrenched in these towns now. Furthermore, Gonzo does have 160 points per minute, so Włochaty has a long way to go if he wants to try and make a dent into Gonzo's forces. He has been holding on quite well in this town, killing off a unit here or there, but just the overwhelming amount that Gonzo has, and how well he's been microing his units as well, has really shown throughout this game. And Gonzo just finding himself that advantage, especially on the bottom side for such a long time, just basically opened up this game in his favour. The Wolverine is going to help force back that ME-109 G6R6. Interesting though that Włochaty has managed to find his way onto the bottom side of this town. Pioneer's going to be finishing off those two units. And takes it back to a +1, but here comes the Hellcat with the bombing strike. That's going to delete those Fallschirm Pioneers. Pins down the Fallschirmjäger and Fallschirm Pioneers as well. Pack 41 has been unloaded. Lucky that the Wolverine actually didn't hit the transport vehicle there, because otherwise that could have ended up very badly. But Flak 41 does find the first shot onto the Wolverine with the weapon jam. Hellcat's now going to come in with the bombing strike, as well as the Seafire F3. Looks like that was going to go for the strafing run, but did not in the end. Wolverine goes down just before the bombing strike lands. Wildcat and the Hellcat go for the strike, but due to that being an AA piece, does have that natural resilience versus aircraft. Doesn't get taken out entirely, but does leave it vulnerable to another bombing strike. Gonzo still making moves here, still pushing aggressively, getting these Commando Fusilier Marines, or Commando Raw Marines, forwards into the Fallschirm Pioneers. Going to try and avoid the grenade from the Fallschirm Pioneers, and then continue to engage at close range due to the 3-star veterancy. That 9HE or 11HE can do a lot of damage, and does take out the Fallschirmjägers. Now going to be looking for the kill onto the Fallschirm Pioneers. Pins down the Fallschirmjägers in the open, which is nice. Now we see a 3-inch mortar on the bottom side trying to engage the Flak 41 as well. I'm surprised we haven't seen any 25-pounders into the late game. It's something that often the first SSB can invest upon. But with Gonzo still sitting on that +1, it's 5 seconds now until victory for him. He's going to reach the 2,500 point mark. Defeats Włochaty in the first game between the two. And 29 minutes and 4 seconds is how long it took. So congratulations to Gonzo. Goes 1-0 against Włochaty. What an awesome game that was. 1,915 kills to 1,640 losses. And Włochaty just couldn't make it work with a third. I think, honestly, the map kind of worked against him, especially on that bottom side early on against with the Centaur. But I am surprised that Gonzo did not try and exploit that ground on the bottom earlier on. Like either by bringing in a second Centaur, or just by getting that Centaur forwards to the point where it could block those spawns, so that if anything came in off the spawn, it would be instantly fired upon by HE. And considering the only thing that could come out the spawn that would damage a Centaur is like something like a Stug, the Centaur could just continuously fire position at the spawn area, and yeah, just pin any AT guns that came in almost immediately. And I think that was a missed opportunity for Gonzo, but still managed to play it very well, albeit conservatively, throughout this game. This Sherman 2 on the top side did work. It killed the Pack 41, 2 Pack 41s, and the LG 42 that was brought in. It supported that infantry pushing into that topside town and allowed Gonzo to take control of that. Like a really well constructed push from Gonzo allowed him to push Włochaty out of that area. These Wildcats, they did fantastically. They constantly came in throughout the game for those quick bombing strikes that help pin down enemy units or finish them off in some cases, like with these 2 Fallschirmjäger units. That's really the benefit of having those. And then the Hellcats coming in later on with the bigger bombs certainly does a lot of damage, but it was more the early play that really set up Gonzo in such a good position on the map, whilst Włochaty really struggled to bring it back throughout the entire game. On this L6, it did do well. It took out 2 Commando 6 squads, which is very important. These Commando 6 squads are just incredibly powerful if they're left alive throughout the game. So the L6 cleaning those up early on before it got taken out by the Morris LRC was very important. Pack 41 took out a couple of Humber Mark IIIs. This wasn't the one that was pressed through the town. Microed very well by Włochaty to get it into the right positions. HS-129 did manage to take out both of the Centaurs in the end, but just a little bit too late, really. That whole play with the 3 ME-109s plus the HS-129 was something I expected to see sooner from the 3rd Fallschirmjager, but due to Włochaty being under pressure throughout most of the game, he had to keep investing in infantry, otherwise he would have lost a lot more ground, which is why he had to wait until Phase C when he had that income in order to invest in those aircraft. And yeah, by then, like I mentioned, it was too late. So an awesome game. Gonzo kept up the pressure, forced Włochaty to basically react on the ground as opposed to in the air. And that was something that really went well for Gonzo throughout the game. But that's all for now. I'm really looking forward to the second game between these two. We'll have to see if Włochaty can bring one back against Gonzo. But that's all. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you then. Goodbye.